and welcome. Welcome to the next chapter of my book, Three Men Ride Again. I am Ketan Joshi, biker, backpacker, and travel writer, and author of various novels, the Three Men on Motorcycle series, starring the Amigos, One Man Goes Backpacking series, and many other stuff. We have been doing a reading of this book, Three Men Ride Again, and we have till now covered our ride in the Spiti Valley. We started from Chandigarh, we covered Spiti Valley, we came down to Manali. Right now we are in Manali and you are wondering what to do. So without any further ado, let's get right down to it. Manali to Kasol. Manali to Kasol. Three men ride again. Eggs, bacon, sausages, salami, baked beans, toast, butter, jam, orange juice, coffee. Ha ha! Bhav was having an orgasm with each word he was reading while me and Adi looked at him in wonder. He looked like a desperate strip bar. Yeah, eyes popping out, fixed grin, tongue poking between the teeth, drool dripping on table. Okay. His hair coiling and uncoiling with delight. Bhav was simply freaking out while looking at the description of the full English breakfast. His tongue and belly were having a hard on. It was a good breaker, no doubt. And I always wonder about the Englishmen who actually eat the English breakfast. It must be really separating the men from the boys. The unfit people will pass out in a food coma and then have a heart attack and die, leaving only the fit ones behind. Those remaining alive after eating this stuff must have been the type of people who put on one solar topi and went and conquered the world. The breakup and fall of the British Empire must have happened when they started having oatmeal and milk instead of this carnivorous breakfast. Three full English breakfasts. Baba gave his order to the waiter. Extra butter, extra jam, and extra bacon, and some extra eggs, and some extra toast. He pondered for a minute and said, extra baked beans also. Well, no, let the beans be. And then he turned to us. What will you guys have? After that breakfast, he waddled to a room very slowly and carefully. Oh, and lay down for a bit to digest that breakfast. After some time, we packed up and suited up to leave for Kasol. Leaving Old Manali was quite a wrench, and I was very tempted to just chill there for a day more. But I suspected that it would get boring. We have already seen the scenes and done the do's, and there's always a danger of Adi going ballistic and buying more stuff than he could load on his bike. I was actually quite looking to seeing Kasol again. When me and Bharti had visited Kasol last time, yes, I know. Bharti took me there. I didn't know Kasol from an asshole at the time. It had been an unexpected success. Yet Bharti did not know it was such a happening place. It was full of cute restaurants and hotels, which were the hangout of Israeli kids. Mostly kids who had, Israeli tourists, which are mostly kids, hardly 20, 22, who had just completed their mandatory army service and were looking for a cheap place where they could chill out and get doped without getting bombed or shot. The food was so awesome. My tongue still tingled whenever I thought of it. We had ordered an Israeli platter, which was full of delicious things which I can't remember and was very cheap. After eating that platter, I thought if this is the life of a Jew, then off with my foreskin. Give me a skull cap and a prayer shawl. I am off to Israel. Apart from the food, I remembered the place as being clean and green and peaceful and being very happy out there. Of course, that was because of being with she who must be obeyed. We were still dating at the time, and those travels were our form of dating, and we were very much in love. We still are. But that was the first flush of love, and that is unbeatable. Going there with these two ugly mastodons would be very different. It's more like the first flush of the toilet. We rode down from Manali to Bhuntar, where the airport is, and then turned into Parvati Valley and followed the river Parvati up till Kasol. It's just 75 odd kilometers from Manali and was a very pleasant ride. Unfortunately, Kasol itself was a big disappointment. I had expected that things would have gone downhill, but this was much worse than I expected. The whole town had become a dusty hellhole. I couldn't find anything I recognized apart from the bridge that used to divide upper and lower Kasol. Oh no, I thought. Another memory ruined. Should never visit places which you remember fondly. Bharti called it the travel jinx. Any place you remember fondly has been utterly fucked up when you go back there. Nothing can be done about it. We looked for a hotel and found a reasonably nice place with river facing rooms and unpacked over there. No point in hanging around Kasol, so we might as well go and explore the Parvati Valley. And since we wouldn't be covering any great distance, we would be able to ride without the heavy protective gear. As any biker knows, the real fun of biking is to ride without helmet or jacket, so you can really feel the wind in your hair. But since we are so strict in our safety norms, we hardly ever get to experience that. All the gear, all the time. The Parvati Valley is full of interesting places. The most well known place is Manikaran Hot Springs, which are holy for Hindus and Sikhs both. The Hindu legend is obviously centuries older, and as Sikhism is a much more younger religion, and it is much more fun also. Sikh legends are normally about, Guru Nanak going there, sitting, going there and sitting, going somewhere else and sitting. Well, Hindu legends are full of, yeah, action, emotion. The word Manikaran comes from Mani, meaning pearl or jewel, and Karna meaning ear. Hence, Manikaran means jewel in the ear, an earring or whatever, some kind of ear ornament. The legend goes that Lord Shiva and his consort Parvati were chilling out in the mountains when Parvati lost her earring and it fell into this spring, this particular spring here, and which was occupied by a water snake, Sheshnag, who lashed onto the ring and refused to give it back. My precious. In spite of getting warned by Lord Shiva. Hey, give it back. No. Arey, give it back. No. Give it back or I'll kick your ass. Nah, won't. At which point Shiva got so pissed, he opened his third eye and started dancing the Tandava, the dance of destruction. And the water of the spring started boiling. And this scared Sheshnag senseless. All right. You can't take it back. Here is your hearing back. Also, all the other rings I can find underground. Now, please go away. And he spewed the Manikaran out and also started spewing out all the gems he could find. Apparently, precious stones used to be actually found in the waters of Manikaran till the massive Kangra earthquake of 1905, which was 7.8 on the Richter scale. Imagine 7.8 in the mountains. And it was terrible enough to kill 20,000 people and destroy most buildings in Kangra, Dharamshala and McLeodganj. This must have damaged the path of volcanic tube or something. And now only thing you can find there is a lot of pollution. The Sikh belief, like I said, is much less fun. It's like all Sikh legends basically involve the visit by Guru Nanak. He and his companion Bhai Mardana had visited Manikaran as it was a holy place for, everybody, holy. And they had a food problem. Though they had provisions of flour and stuff, there was no fire to cook the food. Maybe it was snowing. I couldn't light their own fire, but whatever. There's no fire. The legends don't talk. So Guru Nanak told Mardana to move a stone. And Mardana must have been quite startled to find a hot spring below the stone. With water hot enough to cook the floor. Yeah, I was sitting in that. It's a good thing the stone was there. Otherwise, Bhai Mardana would have had one nasty burn. Hot spring. Anyway, legend aside. The point is it is holy to both Hindus and Sikhs. And what do we expect from a place in India which is holy to two religions? It's twice as ugly and dirty, obviously. Yeah. There are many Hindu temples there, but the place is clearly dominated by the Sikh Gurudwara. Sikh temples are normally very nice to go to. They are clean, well maintained, disciplined. There are jatedars and volunteers who do all the work to keep the place running. There are Niyang sadhus who scare anyone into good behavior. The Niyang are Sikh ascetics. They wear blue clothes, have giant turbans, and roam around festooned with all kinds of weapons. And they're a law unto themselves. I remember one time when I was visiting the famous Gurudwara at Nanded. It was beautiful. Everything was so quiet and holy and spiritual. And until they brought out the holy book, the Guru Granth Sahib, out in a procession. At the sight of this, all the Niyang Sada suddenly got excited, drew out their swords, and started shouting, "Yeah!" I was so startled, I nearly shat myself. I was surrounded by this guy suddenly taking out swords and screaming. After that, I keep a respectful distance from these. A significant part of their faith is to feed the hungry. At all Gurudwaras around the world, they have a langar, a community kitchen, where meals are served for free. There is strict equality. Rich, poor, big, small, all are seated the same way and served the same way. This is the prasad of the temple, and if you visit the temple, you are expected to eat there. A lot of people do voluntary service called kar seva in return. They'll cook the food, clean the utensils, wipe the floor, collect the shoes. You'll find millionaires cheerfully cleaning this floor and film stars happily washing their used utensils. It's amazing. I wanted to eat in the langar, not just to experience the spirituality and take in the prasad, but also because I'd heard that langar food is the most delicious food ever. I'd grown up on people smacking their lips and salivating as they describe the flavor of that langar dal. Arey, wo langar ki dal. And I was very curious to try it out. So all of us saluted the Shiva temple and went to eat in the Sikh langar. I was sitting by my plate when Sadar Kid came with a basket of hot rotis to serve me. I looked at him expectantly. And he looked at me expectantly. This went on for a second and both were confused. Then the kid realized he's dealing with a moron. Cup your hands, he said. Eh? Cup your hands as if you're waiting for alms. Eh? This roti is prasad. We can't serve it in your plate. You have to receive it humbly in your outstretched palms. Okay. Ah! It's just so hot. He cupped my hand and he threw a burning hot roti in my arms. Then other people came and served the rest of the grub. I ate it like a good boy. But that dal was no great shake. I was bitterly disappointed. There are many other interesting places in Parvati Valley. There is a hot spring at Kheer Ganga and village of Malana, a few miles away. Nowadays, Malana is famous for a good quality hash grown in the nearby hills. But it has a fascinating history. It's a very ancient village and it's very different from all the surrounding areas. The place was supposed to have been established by a sage called Rishi Jamlu, and he said that they should stay separate from their neighbors and follow their own customs. The Malana people claim that they are the world's oldest parliamentary democracy. They have a bicameral government with a lower house, Kanishtathang, and an upper house, Jeshtathang, an elected leader. And they have their own language called Kanashi, which is very different from any other local language. Some claim that the villagers of Malana are actually the descendant of a lost legion of Greek armies, a fragment of Alexander's army which deserted and settled down there here. Others claim that they are descended from a group of Indo-Aryans, which came 1,000 years before Alexander. In fact, there was once a rumor that these guys are the only pure Aryans left in the world. And so German girls were coming here to get themselves impregnated by these people so they could give birth to pure Aryan babies. Now, I'm sure this is not true, but it's a fascinating rumor all the same. But Malana also got screwed by the common curse of Himachal, a hydroelectric power station. They dammed the Malana river and screwed up the place. The road has also made the village very accessible and has lost its splendid isolation. After the rather disappointing experience of Kasol and Manikaran, we didn't feel like going anywhere else, and so just rode around locally until we found a nice stream and waterfall and chilled out there and took some photos. Later on, we came back to Kasol and had some problems finding a nice place to eat. The wonderful hotels of my last visit seemed to have folded their tents and gone, and the remaining ones were not particularly impressive. The most probable explanation was the earlier prosperity was due to people coming in for a peaceful stay and doping away happily. And now the local authorities had clamped down on the dope, so the entire tourist traffic had melted away. We went back to our hotel and sat in our balcony overlooking the river and drank rum and chilled out till the wee hours. After all, this was the last night of the real ride. Tomorrow, we'd be heading back to Chandigarh, and that would be the end of the ride. So that's it, folks. That's the end of the chapter. Thank you for tuning in. If you have not seen the earlier chapters, do check it out because, well, you won't know what's going on. And to do that, you know what you need to do? You need to subscribe. You need to subscribe and you need to press that bell icon so that you'll be notified of further videos. So stay tuned as I will finish this book in the next episode, and then you can let me know what you would like me to do in future videos. So I'm thinking that I will post a few other videos, action videos from the book, some short videos because these clips are a bit long, and then we'll start off on the next book. Cheers.
एनफील्ड बुलेट गजब की सवारी